Supervisor Nick D'Alessandro, and today we're going to have a little discussion about our comprehensive master plan. And today we have joining us our liaison and councilwoman, Mary Ann Flores. She's a liaison to the Comprehensive Master Plan Committee. Our town planner, Michelle Robbins, and the chairman of the Comprehensive Master Plan Committee, Mr. John Eichman. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. So we felt that it's about time that we have a little update and a little discussion for the residents at home to tell you where we are and what's been going on with the master plan. I know that if you watch the town board meetings, you have seen every month our liaison, Councilwoman Flores, has given a thorough update as to what's going on, but we thought perhaps it's better if we get into a little question and answer amongst each other and a little sharing of information of exactly what we are doing and how we're doing it. So just to give a little background, the last time that the town board adopted a master plan was in November of 2002. A long time ago, 22 years ago, and generally a master plan for a municipality should be updated every 10 to 15 years. So yes, we are very overdue. That's why we are working very diligently, but reasons why sometimes municipalities do not do a master plan so quickly is because it costs a lot of taxpayer dollars. So we have budgeted for this. We set aside hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this master plan, and we're in the midst of it. So just also a little bit of background is where did we start, when did we start this? Last year in September, the town board came up with names of the public from business owners and residents and professionals who live in the town and work in the town to sit on this comprehensive master plan committee. And also then we did an RFP for consultants. We needed to hire a engineering and architect company to help the master plan committee go through the processes, and also an engineering firm to go through the secret part, which the planner will describe more as we go along here today. So just a little brief background of what we've been doing, and I think maybe we can get a better timeline on how we're progressing with our liaison.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're, I guess, 10 months into this. It seems like just yesterday we started putting this committee together, and so much has been accomplished, but it's a lot of work. But we started, as you said, last August. We started doing departmental interviews while this town board was defining who would be on the committee, and we wanted the committee to be a wide range of representatives from the community. I like to call this not the comprehensive master plan, but the community master plan, because it truly is based on what the community desires to see in East Fishkill.
A good point, yeah.
And so we started, the committee was appointed in September, as you said. We started our first meetings in October. We've been meeting monthly, a number of guest speakers that we've had each month, getting a lot of information, sharing, gathering, collecting, reviewing a lot of information. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we've covered in some of those meetings. But it's truly been, the committee that we have in place, they're just doing an outstanding job. They're all volunteers from the community, volunteering their time, and truly dedicated to helping East Fishkill become the best town that it can possibly be in the future. It's open. It's a very open process. As I said, it's the community plan. And so all of our meetings, while they're not televised, they're open to the public. Our agendas are published, our presentations are published, our notes, and we also have had terrific input from the community through our survey that we had, where we had 2,200 responses.
And what's a typical response feedback?
When we started the survey, I asked that question, and what I was told by our consultants was, oh, if you get 400, 500 responses, that's a good response rate. So
2,200 responses later.
200. So as we were going through the survey, and we were like, we had 1,000, that's great. Then we had 1,500, and then we kept going and going. And it's just, I think, indicative of how interested the community is in giving input into what this plan will look like. So valuable input that we've gotten. And
we also had a great response at the community public workshop we had in March. There was probably close to about 80 or 90 people there.
Right. And maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the comments that we saw in the survey.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So we started off the process by meeting and just getting a little bit of background on the existing conditions in the town. We're looking at multiple technical areas such as traffic and transportation. We're looking at housing. We're looking at economic development, history, and scenic resources, historical and scenic resources in the town. And we're sort of taking a baseline of what exists currently, so that, because this document is supposed to be also, in addition to a policy document, a snapshot in time, so we can go back and understand what was happening at the time that we created the document. So we started looking at what our existing conditions are, and then we started talking about where we may want to go. And one of the first things we did was create a tagline and a logo for the document, and I think I have here the tagline is community, commerce, and country. And I think that we came up with that thinking about terms that we thought represented our community, which were like junction, like Hopewell Junction, the community, small town values, friendliness, importance of people in the hamlets, commerce, the importance of our local economy and ties to the broader region with the larger companies that we have here, and then country, our sense of pride in our history, as well as valuing our rural character and the role of agriculture, and of course our veterans. So those were the things that we wanted to really incorporate and weave within the document. And then we talked about the types of chapters we were going to have in our outline, our plan outline. And we have a community snapshot, history, arts and culture, economic development, housing, open space, agriculture and natural resources, community services, infrastructure, and transportation. And then, John, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about some of the things we've been hearing from folks in the survey and during the meetings and during the public workshop. I think one of the main things was that we're hearing a lot about housing.
We are hearing a lot about housing. As you were talking, though, about some of the subjects that we've touched on, it occurs to me that we all know we live in a great town, but sometimes you don't know, why does it seem to be such a great town? The people we've been exposed to, as far as the professionals and the leaders that we have spoken to and had presentations from, have been truly amazing, people that you aren't exposed to on a daily basis. And for that matter, getting back even to the committee members, our committee is a wonderful group of people who are bright and are looking to try to help move the town forward. The kinds of comments that we've gotten are kind of varied. I think generally what we've found is that the public really likes what we're doing. I think they like the process. I think they like the presentation. And I don't think we've heard anything particularly negative, even on some of the things that might be slightly more controversial. So it's really been an amazing process, and we will have another open house for the public, again, at the community center on August 29th. And so we hope that we'll see even more people at that particular open house.
I think one of the biggest things that came out of the survey was that there's I think one of the responses that had the largest number of respondents in a positive way was the open space question, and 85% of the respondents of the survey wanted to see more open space, or more open space protected, I should say, which is a big number. So that's something that the committee is taking, into consideration when they're drafting their policies and goals, which will be presented to the town board for their approval and review.
And I think one of the things that we consistently hear is that the community is looking for balance. Balance between protecting the open space, balance between bringing in economic development, which is so important, balance between maintaining our agriculture. It's really, how do we preserve all of the different elements that makes East Fishkill such a vibrant, strong wonderful place to live. I think that's the word that I keep going back to, is we have to maintain the balance of all of those aspects.
And that's the difficulty, right? That's the trick. That's why we work so hard to try to cure some of these problems that we have in town. We have a great industrial base. We have a great commercial base. We have wonderful homes. But where do you grow? What's too much or what's not enough?
Right.
So this is why we need so much input from the public, and that we get such a well-rounded, comprehensive committee together to help decide these things.
And that's one of I think the main things that we're looking at is how do we define the East Fishkill of the future as it relates to future land use? Where do you put housing? How much housing? The same thing with economic development. It's really considering all of those elements as we look at how we want the town to continue to grow in a smart way. And I think, and Michelle, you can, and John also in your role with the planning board, can talk to how having a solid master plan will be helpful in the future with the decisions that are made as far as planning and zoning.
Absolutely, to guide us. And I think some of the things we saw in the public survey with regards to housing were that people really came here because they loved the natural beauty of the area, its rural appeal, and the recreational opportunities that were offered. They loved the safety, small town community, and they want to maintain that. And they loved the convenience and location, as well as the schools and the way that the community is very family oriented. So we're very cognizant of those values, and we're trying to incorporate those in our policies and really think about how the policies and goals that we recommend consider all of those things.
And some of the decisions we're going to be making are going to determine where and how much infrastructure we need to create. We have water and wastewater issues. Very few people are actually served by our water and sewer facilities. We know that we need to expand those, but where do you expand them, and how much can you actually spend on infrastructure? Additionally, roads is another thing. Is the population has grown over the last 20 years since the last plan. We've determined that a lot of improvements need to be made to our major highways going through town, 82 and 376. We're looking at traffic circles that already exist on 52 and will soon be at the 376-82 intersection, and hopefully on 82 ultimately as well. And all of those things are things that are being studied as a part of this plan.
Excellent. So as we move forward, tonight you have a committee meeting, correct?
Committee meeting tonight.
So give an example. What happens at these committee meetings? You say you have a lot of speakers who come. What's an example of this evening?
This evening, we actually, and the groups that we have coming in tonight are representative of artists in the community and young professionals. And it actually came about as a result of a meeting we had with the business leaders in the community, where we were approached at that meeting about, hey, you really need to talk to a group of young professionals to see what they want, what they need to help them stay in the town. And the same thing with the artists. They approached us and said, hey, we're artists. There's a lot we have to offer the town, and we'd really like to talk with your committee. And so we've got those two groups coming in, representatives of both groups, and it'll be an open dialogue with the committee members to see what they envision, what they would like, how we can best utilize the artist community to drive a vibrant art life in the town, whether it be, painting, sculptures, music. How can we utilize the talents of the wonderful artists we have in the community? And the same thing with the young professionals. Last month we had, I thought, a really, really informative meeting. Even for someone like me who's lived in the town for 30 plus years, it was very informative. We had the highway superintendent, we had the police chief, we had the fire commissioner, and we had the librarian. And each of them spent about 15 minutes talking about the services that each of their department offers the community and how they would envision the town growing. but it was so informative to hear the scope of what they cover and the wonderful work they do. It was eye-opening, as I said, for me, and I've lived here 30 years, and I think that's something that we want to share that information also. But the information they shared helps us define as a committee, okay, as we look at how we want the town to grow over the next 20 years, what are the impacts to highway? If you build a large housing community, what would highway like to see? What would, fire, EMTs?
Sure.
So it was really informative. So it's really, at each of these meetings, we've had different speakers. We've had the town historian, we've had the town engineer.
We had a representative from Cornell Cooperative Extension to talk about agriculture.
Well, speaking of agriculture, I heard that we have a farmer on the committee as well, and I heard that we did a farm tour. Is that correct?
We had a field trip.
So how was that?
It was extraordinary, it really was. Yeah, Delbert Lee was the person who led us on that ag tour, and this gentleman has been in agriculture since he was a child, and his family before him. So he knows so much that you could probably take an entire week, 24 hours a day, and you still wouldn't know everything that he knows about agriculture. But it was great, and we talked a lot about trying to preserve the existing farms that we have. We talked a lot about how the number of farms have actually reduced substantially. And I don't recall the precise numbers, but I think we were talking about back in like the 1970s, it might have been in the range of 270 farms, and now we have less than 20.
Yeah.
I believe was the number. Wow. And so when you take a look at those kinds of reductions, you need to try to preserve what you have left in order to maintain the historical nature of this town as a farming community.
And it's amazing how our community has grown, right? From a farming community to a railroad community to an industrial community. And it's rare that you have a community that has all those aspects in it like we do. So like you said, it's important that we know our history and how we can preserve some of that for future generations. So it's amazing how much time it takes, how much effort, and this is also the reasons why we said it's such a large endeavor. Not only the dollars it takes, the investment that the town has to make for this comprehensive plan, but the time dedication that these committee members have to do. So what is our timeline? How has that been looking? And what are our next steps?
So we have an extremely efficient committee, and dedicated committee, and we've been really doing a great job as far as making this an efficient process, but it still is a multi-year process. Typically, I would say master plans take over 2 years. We're trying to do it in under 2 years, and we're doing that by meeting more frequently and meeting very efficiently.
And you've done master plans before in other communities.
Yes.
And so compared to was the other community comparable to ours, size-wise, population?
Is similar, but maybe a little bit larger in population. So at this point, what we're doing is we're working on drafting the goals and policies and the actual outline of the master plan and the chapters. And we're hoping to have a draft complete sometime late fall, early winter. And then we would send that to the town board for review, at which point there'll be opportunities for the public to comment on the draft master plan, as well as the SECR process, which is the State Environmental Quality Review.
And what does that entail?
So that would entail a review to look at the policies and goals and their potential for environmental impacts, or in many cases to benefit the environment. So we'd be looking at that. That's in a comprehensive view. It's done on almost every single development action that's done in New York State, and any sort of discretionary funding action that's done in New York State requires a state environmental quality review. So because this is an action that is approved by the town board, this would also be reviewed under SECR. And then during the seeker process, there is also an opportunity for the public to comment during the public hearings for seeker. So there's multiple opportunities for the public to still get involved, as well as a website where we take comments. You can just log on. All you have to do is Google East Fishkill Comprehensive Plan. The website will come up, and there's an opportunity there for you to submit questions and comments via an email address to our consultants. And our consultants are helping us sort of coordinate and facilitate and draft the document.
Excellent. And so compared to the other municipality that you did a master plan to, how do we rate in our timeline and our processes?
Well, I think we've been efficient. I think we're maybe slightly under what most of the other towns go through as far as timing, but that's because we have a very experienced team, and I think that we went into this process hoping to work hard and be more efficient.
We wanted to be very smart and aggressive with our schedule. I think the last time the town did their master plan, it took 6 years.
So it was adopted in 2002, but started in 1996?
And we
A lot of changes happened in that time.
Right. And we wanted to make sure, to keep our committee fully engaged, make sure people don't lose interest. We wanted to keep it, on an aggressive schedule and timeline and hold ourselves accountable to that. And so
Right.
far, I think we've done an outstanding job, and our chairman of our committee is, you're remarkable in how you keep us on point in our meetings. But I think we're doing a phenomenal job in really pushing ourselves.
Well, like you said, we have very good professionals that know what they're doing, which is a benefit. We're extremely blessed to have a chairman of our planning board who's the chairman of our comprehensive plan committee, Mr. Eichmann, who understands, and it's key, correct, to have the planning board a vital role in our comprehensive plan, because you see the projects coming forward, you see the growth, and then you let the town board know to change laws or what have you that we need to do.
It is really important, but it occurred to me too that I've been on the planning board now for 10 years, and in all that time, I've not been exposed to many of the things that I'm being exposed to now in the comprehensive master plan. That's probably the real benefit of this planning process, is touching on virtually every aspect of the town, everything having to do with development, quality of life, those kinds of things. And so it's really been an eye-opener, and I think it's going to be useful to not only me as the chairman of the planning board, but to all of the people on the committee and who are involved, because they are potentially the future leaders of the town.
Absolutely. It's meant to be a guide for decision-making in the town. And I think that's why it's so important that we do it right, and so important that we do it as quickly as we possibly can, because we need to have those goals and policies in place so that we can make better decisions.
And what you explained to me was that having the master plan helps facilitate decision-making in the future, because you have a master plan that you can point to as you make decisions as a planner in zoning. We have a master plan that forms the basis of those decisions.
Yes, with massive public input, so we understand, what the public is thinking, and that can help guide us in our decision-making.
So not only does the master plan look at growth of businesses and housing and other things of that nature, it also looks at public safety and open space. And tell me more.
Transportation, historical resources, visual resources, recreation. So let's say there's a particular scenic resource that everyone loves. We can look at that, understand from our feedback from the public, and say, this resource is really important to the identity of our community. We really think it's important to protect it. How do we do that? And then maybe we pass, for example, zoning that would help us protect that resource.
Understood. Very good. Excellent. So as we come to the end of the year and you have a draft of the master plan to present to the town board, and we have our public hearings for seeker and then the master plan adoption, what is the timeline after that?
So once it's adopted, there may be things that the plan discusses, or goals or policies in the plan that suggest ways that we can implement our vision. and I'll use the zoning example again. Let's say that we have a goal of protecting a certain amount of open space, for example. Perhaps when we do our new subdivision regulations, or if we do new subdivision regulations, we say in there maybe a certain percentage of the land has to be protected as open space. There already is some provision of that in some of our subdivision regs, but maybe we look at that and we try to understand how we can, maybe what we do is we identify locations in that subdivision that would provide a visual resource, and we say maybe that is important to be protected. So those kinds of things we can flesh out later based on the goals and policies that we create in the master plan, but that's how it's supposed to be used. It's used to guide our decision-making in the future.
Excellent. So that's what we do. We come up with the plan. It's adopted by the board based upon all the feedback from the public, and then we make the changes that the public wants in our everyday laws and zoning regulations.
Correct.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I think what's really important is it doesn't stop there. What's really important to us is that we have metrics in the plan that we can report to the community on progress. One of the questions that we've been asked the most as we started through this process is, well, what happened to all of the different things in the prior master plan? What was implemented? What wasn't implemented? And quite honestly, that was a big challenge because so much time has passed. It was difficult to say what was or was not implemented, and more importantly, if something wasn't implemented, why not? Right. And so what will be really important is that will be, I like to say, a living, breathing document that we can refer to, report back to on progress, how we're doing against it.
Gotcha.
With measurable goals, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, we could have a metric in there that talks about how many new acres of open space we add to the town, or if we have a policy about historical resources, we could say we protected an additional historical resource, or we maybe opened a historical resource to the public or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I saw that some of the responses to the survey, one of the largest responses was to have more open space.
Yes.
Right. So these are the challenges that plague us, and how are we going to fulfill the needs of our residents, correct?
Correct.
Right.
And so one of the things we talked about was when you talk about we want to maintain open space, well, in order to maintain open space, keep our taxes low, economic development is important. And so where do we focus our economic development? I think, we've got the 52 corridor that has been so instrumental, but those are all things that we're looking at, again, how do we balance everything?
Well, I really want to thank all of you for coming today. It's been very informative, and I know that many residents have been engaged in watching and looking at what we're doing and listening to the updates, but some people don't. They don't have time, they work, busy lives, and it's good that we get a little bit of information back to the public, and perhaps we'll do another one of these. I know that you have several more meetings to go, and we actually do have another public outreach meeting, like Chairman Eichman did say. It is going to be at the August 29th at the Community Center on August 29th, so please look out for that. We will be advertising that on our social media, on Channel 22, all our outlets, to make sure that we get a good crowd. We did have a nice crowd the first meeting, actually, which was very good, but we want more people to engage. And like the planner said, please visit the comprehensive plan website. If you have comments or thoughts or questions, there's a spot there for you to ask them and let us know what you're thinking. So please go there. And if you need more information, you can call here at Town Hall. You could call any of the board members. Our information is available on our website, so please utilize that. And I want to thank you all for all the hard work. It's been a tremendous amount of work, like you said. 10 months went very, very quickly, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you. It's a big endeavor, and this is a very big necessity for our community. So thank you all.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you to all the members of our committee.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good day.